Welcome to the Mindful Month video series. My name's Graham McDowell. I'm a mindfulness coach, solution-focused hypnotherapist and psychotherapist, and the creator of Monkey Mind. Now, if you're like most people, your mind is probably more active than you'd like. You may think a lot about things that have happened in the past or that could happen in the future. You may be aware that a lot of your thinking is negative or judgmental. You may be struggling to get on top of things or gain control. Maybe things never quite seem the way you want them, so you feel frustrated or annoyed or stressed, or you may suffer from things like anxiety, anger or depression and feel like you don't get restful sleep. So if you recognize any of these symptoms, regardless of whether you feel that you're suffering a little or a lot, I made this program for you, so please stick around. But this program is not a miracle cure where you listen for a few minutes and everything changes, and I can't offer you a life without challenges and difficulties. What I offer you is a choice. You see, most humans spend a lot of their lives suffering in terms of how they feel psychologically or emotionally, but I want to show you that whilst challenges are inevitable, psychological suffering as a result of them is optional. And I am never going to ask you to believe me. I'm going to ask you to discover these things for yourself by working with me, by following along, by learning the lessons, using the resources and practicing the techniques. And this journey begins by gaining a deeper understanding of how our brains and minds function and what these things really are that we call anxiety, anger and depression, because whilst many might consider them illnesses or disorders, they are in fact essential primitive survival mechanisms dating back to the dawn of human history. We'll now hear the audio from the start of the first session with me talking to our volunteers, Kerry and Sam. So there's a part of our brain that's always on the lookout for danger, okay? So even going back 250,000 years, that part of our brain was there. So it's a part of our brain which you can actually call the reptilian brain, which actually goes right back millions of years into evolution. And even a few thousand years ago, when we kind of settled and, started living in one place and, growing crops and keeping animals and stuff like that, that bit of brain there, it was looking after us, it was always looking out for danger. So that bit of brain is what we actually call the limbic system. Okay, so the limbic system is comprised of sort of three main elements, which we're going to look at more detail as we go along over the coming weeks. So the hippocampus is a really important part of that. And the hippocampus is a part of the brain where we store, if you like, templates. Okay, so what we do is to develop templates, and that's how we run our systems. Okay. So it's like a software, so you can consider it like a software program that runs us. Does that make sense? Now, you didn't know that you had a software program running you, but I promise you, about 95% of what we do is from these software programs. We think that we do things through conscious thought, but only about 5% of what we do is actually through conscious thought. We follow these pre-programmed behaviors, okay? Now, an example of a template, for example, could be smoking. Yes? Now, if you took a smoker, they would know, there's like a sensible part of their brain that knows that smoking is not sensible, yes? But yet there's a part of their brain that's encouraging them to smoke. I think, well, that's a bit odd, why is that? So it's because there's this template that's developed, and they're it's something that's kind of against their will. I don't want to do this, but I feel driven to do this. So like when we said about addictions. So what is an addiction? Most addictions aren't chemical addictions. So like if it's hard drugs and things like that, then it's a chemical addiction to something. But most things that we call addictions, they're really just compulsions to want to keep doing something, aren't they? And so that's actually driven by these templates in our brain. And it can get a bit confused because most of the templates that we have are actually helpful. So like, you drove here? Mm-hmm. Both of you? Okay. So when you drove a car, it was quite simple to drive here, wasn't it? And you didn't give it a great deal of thought.
That's learned behaviour, isn't it?
But that's learned behaviour. But when you learn to, before you could drive a car and somebody starts to explain it, you're thinking, oh my God, well, am I going to ever learn all of this? But what we call learned behaviour is basically a template that's laid down, because have you ever seen a brain on a microscope on tape or something? You've got all of these neural connections that are formed, yes? So all of these neural connections are formed in our brain, and it literally becomes hardwired in. So once you've learned to drive, it's completely possible that you can go to bed tonight, wake up tomorrow morning and not remember where you left the car keys, but it's not possible that you'll have forgotten how to drive because it's hardwired in. So that's an example of a template. So these behaviours that we have that are causing issues in life are invariably down to the fact that we've ended up creating templates which aren't really helpful, okay? So we have to go in and we have to change those templates, which may sound complicated and difficult, but has it been complicated and difficult to create the templates that you've already got? Yes or no?
No.
No, because you didn't even know you were doing it.
That's right.
It just happened. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring conscious awareness to it. We're going to decide on what two templates we need, and then we're going to recreate templates in the way that you've been creating them. But we're just going to decide to have templates we want rather than ones that aren't helping us. Does that make sense? Okay.